Do you wake from your finest fantasy only to return to your daily nightmare?
Mr. Wall. Yes, Mr. Wall.
Is your mother about to look younger than you do? Does the woman of your dreams
I love you. In my dreams, I love you.
still have a few doubts? Then it's time to take a stand. To break out of your dull, humdrum life and into Brazil.
So pleased you can make it right this way.
It's about flights of fantasy and the nightmare of reality.
We're all in this together.
Terrorist bombings
I don't think it involves anything unsavory. You trust me, Jack?
and late night shopping. True love
You don't trust me?
Trust you? Trust you? The man who hijacks my truck, loses me my job, has every security man in town looking for me? Of course I trust you.
I was only trying to help.
Yeah.
and creative plumbing.
There's your problem. Can you fix it? No, I can't.
From Terry Gilliam, director of Time Bandits, Jonathan Pryce,
Sam, what are we going to do with you?
Robert De Niro,
I came into this game for the action, the excitement. Go anywhere, travel light, get in, get out. Wherever there's trouble, a man alone.
Katherine Hellman, and Michael Palin.
We've always been close, haven't we?
Yes, Jack?
Well, until this all blows over, just stay away from me.
Brazil. It's only a state of mind.
We're all in it together, kid.
Hello YouTube and YouTubettes. Today we're going to talk about the movie Brazil. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about this movie.
Brazil was released in 1985 and was directed by Terry Gilliam, also written by Terry Gilliam, Tom Stoppard, and Charles McCallum. It stars Jonathan Pryce, Robert De Niro, Katherine Hellman, Ian Holm, Bob Hoskins, Michael Palin, and Kim Grease. And the movie is actually not about the country Brazil. It's actually named after a song called Brazil that's used throughout the movie. It actually takes place in an unnamed country, a time and place, which could be the future, could be the past. It's just a different reality where government bureaucracy runs everything. And basically the story starts where this bureaucratic error that results in a typo results in an innocent man being arrested and executed, and one man, the main character Sam Lowry, as he digs deeper into this and this mistake, he becomes a marked man by the state.
Alright, now we're going to talk about our favorite actor. Jonathan?
Favorite actor is a difficult choice. I want to give two special mentions real quick. Robert De Niro and Michael Palin were in this, and Michael Palin, he was with Monty Python. They both played very different characters, and I kind of wanted to pick one of them, but they were very small roles in this movie, so I'm going to pick the lead, Jonathan Pryce, who kind of has to play two different roles. He plays the main character, who doesn't really want to go against the system and is kind of unambitious in his life. He doesn't really seem to want to move up, but at the same time he has daydreams, and in his daydreams he plays a character who's this masculine man with these mechanical wings who's going to rescue this damsel in distress, this dream girl. And he's kind of, you know, he's just a very likable person, even though he's part of the society that accepts a lot of horrible things, and because he's born in this society, he does too. But he's still very likable, and he's just like kind of this average guy that who's slightly pathetic, but at the same time you want to root for him.
I had Michael Palin, who you said he was the one in Monty Python, and I thought he was very interesting and funny in this.
Yeah.
But it was very hard to pick one. All right, least favorite actor. Did you have a least favorite?
Yeah, I was going to put the least favorite for the female lead, Kim Grease. She plays Jill, who's this, who is a truck driver that has the face of the dream girl that the main character, Sam, sees in his dreams. And so he just falls instantly in love with her. But now that I think about it, like, she's probably the most normal character in this film, and that might have been why I singled her out. So ultimately, this is a long way of saying I can't pick a least favorite, because even I think she does a good job, and as everyone in this movie.
Yeah, I couldn't pick one either. I just, so that was a whole take on nothing. So, anyway, yeah, great take. Our favorite scene in the movie, Jonathan?
This is hard because there are a lot of standout scenes in this movie, because I'll go in a little bit more detail into that later. I am going to have to go with basically the character Michael Palin plays in this movie. He plays a guy who works for a government agency that is the Ministry of Information Retrieval. And well, he basically tortures people. But what's funny is that he's like this nice guy who's very polite and also kind of funny, and he also has a daughter that he dotes upon. And so there's a scene where, you know, he comes out of this room and he meets the main character Sam, and he's with his daughter, and it kind of shows you that the world of this movie, you know, everyone seems to be polite, everyone seems to be nice. Even the antagonists don't act like mean, evil people, but it's just because they do what they're told and they just follow procedure. They do terrible things because they're socially accepted, and that's the world of this movie.
My favorite scene was when the guy runs away with the girl in the big truck that was actually the main character, that he kept dreaming about this girl, but she was like completely different than except that she looked like the same girl. And then they went off in this big truck. For some reason that scene stuck out to me, and I can't remember exactly why, but it did. All right, next we're going to score what we think of the overall acting in the movie. Jonathan?
I give the acting an 8.5. It is very good. But it's also very different, because even though, like, make this movie sound like there's this dystopia, so this has got to be a very depressing movie with super dramatic acting, Brazil actually has a very comedic approach to the acting. Almost all the characters are very odd in this movie because they live in this world that is just so upside down. It's supposed to reflect our world, but really, it's just really great. You got Robert De Niro playing a freelance heating technician who's on the run from the state. You have the mother of the main character who has these weird plastic surgery things done to her face. You have, you know, this nice guy who tortures people, and so that everyone fits these weird roles that, you know, adds a dramatic side, but also has a comedic side to it.
I gave it a 6. I think there was a lot of silliness, like Monty Python-esque, which doesn't mean I don't like it. It just means, I don't know, it was not necessarily deep acting. It was just kind of silly acting, if that makes sense. So I gave it a 6. All right, next I'm going to put we're going to review directing, or our score for directing and producing. Jonathan?
Directing and producing was great. There were some other producers for this film, but it seems to be Terry Gilliam's show through and through. directed this movie in a very unique way. He uses a lot of wide-angle lenses. Now, I give it a 9. I dock it from a 10 because there are a couple of moments in this film where the wide-angle lens almost looks like a fisheye, and it's a little bit distracting. But for the most part, he just does a really good job at filming this very odd world that has like 1940s fashion, but also some futuristic technology elements. It kind of combines old with the new in this movie. Like, you have people on typewriters, but the typewriters are on computer monitors. So he has this very unique world to direct, and I thought he really pulls you in.
I gave it a 7. I thought it was interesting, and yeah, I just gave it a 7. I don't know why. Alright, visual effects, sound effects, editing, etc. Jonathan?
I give a 8.5. There are a lot of sound effects because there are a lot of machines in this movie, and just like everything in this world, the machines, while they're supposed to make everyone's lives easier, they make them harder. And so you got a lot of actual, animatronics at work, and you also have, these weird sounds to go with this weird world. But the visual effects are definitely the most impressive part. There are a couple of moments in the film where the effects are showing, but for the most part, it's great because there are a lot of there's a lot of miniature work. There are dream sequences where the main character is flying through these very high walls. And there are also sequences where you see the cityscape and you see a car chase, and a lot of those things you see are actually miniatures. They're not full-size buildings, and it's done very well.
Yeah, I gave the visual effects an 8. I think it is very visually interesting. I'll say that. In some points, somewhat cartoony, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess it is 85 again. So, right? That's
yeah, 1985.
So, but anyway, I just gave it an 8. All right, next, writing. Our score for writing, Jonathan.
I give it a 9 because, well, this movie has to do a lot of things. It has to create a world that's kind of futuristic, kind of not, and make the audience believe that world is there. It has a story that starts with something that seems very mundane, but balloons it is something that is very huge. It has a main character who starts out as this unambitious guy, but is also a daydreamer. And you've got comedic elements because it's a very pessimistic movie, but there's a lot of comedy in this movie. And something like that, you have to be a good writer because you're balancing a lot of tones in this movie. And that's why I give it a 9, because even though there's a lot of craziness that happens in this movie, I feel like almost everything fits. So, 9 for me.
I give it a 5.
Oh, wow.
I think, okay, so Terry Gilliam, the director, right?
Yeah.
I love 12 Monkeys, and it pulled me in, and I followed it along, and it was interesting. For some reason, and maybe it's one that would grow on me if I saw it more, but it was very hard for me to watch, like to follow. I wasn't. It was a lot of craziness going on, and it wasn't one that pulled me in, and the plot didn't seem that interesting to me. I don't know. So I gave it a 5. The soundtrack, Jonathan?
I give the soundtrack a 9. It's very bombastic. It's done by Michael Kamen, and it's based on this song called Brazil. I don't think that's the full name of the song, but it's basically this older song that Gilliam wanted Kamen to make the basis of the score. And there are times where it makes it, sound very escapist, and there are times where it makes the score sound very foreboding, sometimes celebratory, but there are many different ways that Kamen utilizes this theme, and so it's definitely very memorable. I think there are a couple of times where the score can get a little too over the top. That's why I don't give it a full 10. But I mean, it was great. I mean, it's a kind of odd and bombastic movie, so it kind of deserves a bombastic score. So, yeah, 9 for me.
Yeah, I also gave the soundtrack a 9. I can't really remember it right now, the music, but I do remember when I was listening to it, it sounded very powerful. So I will give a high score on that, a 9 for soundtrack. All right, what it's all about. Jonathan, what are your thoughts?
Well, what I see what this movie is about, in a world dominated by a bureaucracy that refuses to acknowledge or correct mistakes, innocent people are punished and have no way of escape. Apparently, terrorists exist in this world, but you find a lot of people who've done nothing wrong, because of some misinformation, get arrested or accused of doing something bad towards the state. And so it's like there's no way of escape, and it's very fatalistic. It's like these characters have no control over their destiny.
I basically put a satire on a tyrannical state.
Yeah.
I also, the main character is in, really frustrating life.
Yeah.
Everything seems to go wrong, and also this idea of, is this woman really in his dreams, or is he just a madman? So a lot of interesting things. And our overall scores for the movie, Jonathan?
My overall score is 8.8. Definitely one of the most unique films I've seen. Terry Gilliam does utilize a lot of different techniques and styles from movies across the 20th century, but it's definitely its own thing. And one thing I want to add in here too is like it's basically about this tyrannical government. But what's funny is that it doesn't seem to have a black and white perspective on heroes and villains. It's like the antagonists of this movie are villains, but like they're just doing things because, oh, this is how you do things. And there's like very little malice to it. And so a lot of the reasons why terrible things happen to people in this movie and how the plot is driven forward is just because people are just doing the things that they're supposed to do. And that's a very unique perspective, especially when we simplify heroes and villains a lot in our movies.
I gave it a 7.0, and I think for some reason, and I tend to like weird movies. I love 12 Monkeys, another Terry Gilliam film, but it's give and take for me. So this is one of those that really didn't entertain me that much for some reason. There's specific things in there that seem a little interesting and funny and weird, but it wasn't. Maybe in some future setting in the right place it'll pull me in, but as for now, it gets a 7.